Some call it a straight-line king, but a cornering disaster. Others revere it as one of the 4 heavenly kings of JDM. They say after the 2JZ, there is no more Bull Demon King. Today, we are talking about the Bull Demon King, the Toyota Supra. Let us go back to 1978. Back then, it was not even called the Supra. It was the Celica. Simply put, it was a stretched Celica. Toyota wanted a piece of the performance car market, but did not want to build a car from scratch. So they took the Celica, stretched it, and stuffed a 2.6-liter inline-6 engine inside. 110 horsepower by today's standards. That is barely enough to get excited about, but in an era dominated by 4-cylinder engines. This made Toyota and the first Japanese manufacturer to mass produce an inline-6. The first generation, codenamed A40, was born quietly. In 1981, the second generation, A60, arrived. The biggest change of this generation was a complete shift in design language. The rounded lines of the 70s were replaced by the sharp, angular styling of the 80s. Pop-up headlights made it look like a crouching leopard ready to pounce. Power was also upgraded. A 2.8-liter inline-6 pushed out 155 horsepower. More importantly, from this generation onward, the Supra and Celica began to go their separate ways. The Celica became more of a family car, while the Supra leaned into performance. But there is a detail few people notice. The second generation Supra's wheelbase was longer than the first, and the car was heavier. What does that tell you? It tells you that Toyota never intended for the Supra to be a pure track machine. They wanted a grand tourer that could eat up highway miles, carry passengers, and still be comfortable. That philosophy has carried through to this day. The real turning point came in 1986. That year, the Celica switched to a front-wheel drive platform, while the Supra stayed rear-wheel drive. The two parted ways completely. The third generation, A70, was the first true independent Supra. With this generation, Toyota threw every bit of technology they had at it. Temp's electronically controlled suspension that adjusted stiffness based on vehicle speed. 3-channel ABS. One of the first mass-produced systems of its kind in the world. The turbocharged version made 230 horsepower. A later twin-turbo version pushed that to 280 horsepower. Of course, that was the gentleman's agreement limit. The real potential was far beyond that. But what truly elevated the Supra to legend status was the 4th generation, launched in 1993, codenamed Supra A80. Smooth, flowing curves to replace the sharp edges of the 80s. Hidden headlights made it look like a crouching beast. But the real obsession was what lay under the hood. The 2JZ GTE engine, a 3.0-liter twin-turbo inline-6 with a cast iron block. The 280 horsepower on paper was a lie. If you were willing, it could easily push 500, 700, even 1,000 horsepower. Why cast iron? Because Japanese engineers back then did the math. Aluminum is lighter, but cast iron is tougher. It has more tuning potential. They bet that the people buying this car would not be satisfied with stock numbers, and they bet right. In 1994, the Supra lapped the Nürburgring in 8:38, 12 seconds faster than the Porsche 911 Turbo of the same era. That same year, the Supra began dominating drag strips around the world. The straight-line king nickname was born, but the good times did not last. In 2002, due to stricter emissions regulations and a shrinking market after the economic bubble burst, the Supra was discontinued. It would be 17 years before it returned. In 2019, Akio Toyota fought hard to bring the Supra back, but this time, criticism came faster than applause because the 5th generation A90 used BMW's CLAR platform. BMW's B58 engine, and BMW's ZF8 speed automatic. The old school fans were furious. I waited 17 years for this. A rebodied Z4 does not deserve to be called a Supra, but there is one detail few people noticed. The development team for the 5th Gen Supra spent countless days and nights at the Nürburgring. They almost completely retuned DMW's factory chassis. Akio Toyoda himself tested the car over and over again until he finally said, "This is the Supra I wanted." And the results? The A90's Nürburgring time was 20 seconds faster than the A80. The B58 engine, criticized for not being JDM enough, delivers power smoothly and still has serious tuning potential. The chassis that was mocked for being borrowed has cornering limits that put many old-school sports cars to shame. So let me ask you, in your heart, which generation of Supra is the true bull demon king? Is it the A70's Declaration of Independence, the A80's legendary 2JZ, or the A90's rebirth against all odds?